Hello everyone, so today in this video I'm going to illustrate how you can build a computer with computer parts. And the first thing you have to do is you need to get the tools to do that. So you need to get a Phillips head screwdriver, which you see right there, an anti-static wristband, which is right here, and the M2 screwdriver, which is right there if you want to put M.2 or NVMe SSD in your computer. And next thing you'll need is a nut driver bit with detents. This is so you could install the nuts for your the brass nuts for your motherboard, so you can mount it into your case. And the last thing you'll need is some thermal paste. That's for the CPU. So the next thing you have to do is you need to mount your motherboard on your case. And before you do that, you need to put the brass standoffs in your case first. So right here I have a full-size ATX case, and your case should have the markings on it, on what is a ATX, what is a micro ATX, or what is a ITX case. So this is a ATX case, so the motherboard standoffs should be in this order. You should screw them on in this fashion, and you could use nut driver bits with detents with your screwdriver to tighten it, but don't over tighten it or it's going to damage the backplate, because the steel for computer cases is not very thick. So just make sure it's firmly in there but not too tight. And after you get that on, you mount the motherboard in the case with the motherboard brass standoffs in them, and then you just align it. And after you align it and put it into the case, you would use number 632 1/4 inch Phillips screw mounting screws. Then you would screw each one into the top of your motherboard and get it into your case, and this should secure your motherboard in your case. And also don't tighten it so tightly, just make sure it's firmly in there so you don't warp the motherboard and damage it. And basically that's all you have to do to mount the case, mount the motherboard in the case. It's a very important part of it. And when you with these new motherboards, you don't need a IO phase shield. They should all already come with one. For this motherboard, all you have to do is just align it and put it in and that's it. And the next thing you have to do is you need to put the power supply in the case. And to do that, this is just the EVGA 680 plus bronze power supply. And in the back of your case, for each case is different. For some cases the power supply can be mounted on the top of the case, but for this one it's on the bottom of the case. So you just align it with the holes, screw holes, and then you put it in there, you slide it in there, and then you align it and get it in there, and you put the number 632 1/4 inch Phillips screws into the cutouts, and then you just secure your power supply in on your case, and that's it. And after you mount the power supply unit, the next thing you have to do is you need to connect your ATX power connector. So there's two of them. You will have a 24 pin ATX connector right here, and that goes right here. It goes in just one way, so there should be a cutout for a tab on the 24-inch connector, and you just clip it on, and that's it. You just push it in and clip it on, and it should just snap into place. The next one is either you would have a 4-pin ATX power connector, or you would have an 8-pin ATX power connector. So if you have an 8-pin, you just align the two 4-pin ATX connectors and just put it in there, and there's like a little tab that should pop out, and you just connect the tab to this thing. You just push in, so you just push this tab in for the power connector, and then it should open, and then you just snap it, and you just push it in, push this into the motherboard, and then it should just snap into place. And if you have a 4-pin, then you just take it out and just use the 4-pin and put it into your motherboard, and that's it. Next thing is you need to connect storage devices and optical disk drives. If you have an optical disk, if you have a 5 1/4 inch bay on your case, then you could use an optical drive, but if you don't, then you can't use an optical drive. But I would recommend that you get a case with 5 1/4 inch drive bays, because you could do other things with it. You could add 5 1/4 inch drive bay adapter like this one right here to put two SSDs, two 2.5 inch SSDs or hard drives, and one 3.5 inch hard drive. So this adapter enables you to put three storage devices into one slot. And this is a 3.5 inch hard drive, this is a 2.5 inch SSD, and they all use a SATA cable. So this is SATA data cable. This would go in here, and it just goes in one way. And this is the SATA data port for the SSD. And this goes in there for the SSD, and then after you put it into the storage devices, you would put it into your motherboard, which is right here. You just put it into one of these SATA ports on your motherboard, and that's it. And also, there's also a SATA power cable. This is from your power supply, and this would go to all your devices that you have connected onto your computer. So this SATA power cable would go right here for the 3.5 inch hard drive, and it would go right here for the 2.5 inch SSD or 2.5 inch hard drive. And you need to connect both in order to use storage devices like a 3.5 inch hard drive or a 2.5 inch SSD. I have a video on this so I'll leave it in the video description so you could see how you could install this onto a case. It's in more detail. So if you don't have enough SATA ports on your motherboard, you could always add a PCIe SATA controller card into a PCIe port on your motherboard. And this computer has the sample motherboard has two PCIe ports, so you can connect it into either one. and you just put it in there. There's no release cable or anything like release tab or anything like that. You just push it in and that's it. And then you just screw it in here after you get it into your case to secure it. That's it. And this is a 5.25 inch optical drive, and also with the 5.25 inch adapter, it would go in from the front. So you just take out one of these things right here, these panels, 5.25 inch panels, and there may be a metal thing in here that's obstructing it, so you just pull that out as well. And then you could put a 5.25 inch optical drive from the front. You just slide it in, and after that you use drive screws to screw it into these holes right here. Align it with the holes, get it in. There should be 4 of them, 4 screws, so one here, one there, one here, and one there. So just screw it in there and that's it. You could do it from both. You could also do it from both sides by removing the other panel from the computer, this panel. So you probably need 8 drive screws for that. And if you want to put additional hard drives, most computer cases will have 3.5 inch drive bays. So you just slide it in here and get it in. Some of them have brackets. You may have to put it onto the side of your hard drive. They're like little rails, and you just slide it in and it just snaps right into place. Or others, they may not have rails. You just slide it in and you just put the drive screws onto your drive, and that's it. 3.5 inch drive, and that's it. That's pretty much it. So this computer has 6 3.5 inch drive bays and 3 5.25 inch drive bays. So if you want to put, let's say, 8 hard drives and 1 SSD, you could put 6 here. You could put 2 here with one of these things. You could buy 2 of these things, put it here and here, and you could put an extra hard drive in there. And you could also put an SSD. You could have 8 hard drives and 1 SSD. But however, most motherboards will probably come with 6 SATA ports, so if you get this adapter card, you could put 2 more. You could connect 2 more devices into your computer, but if you use the controller card, you're not going to be able to boot from it. So make sure your boot device is not connected to the SATA controller card. I'll show you how a drive screw looks like. Let's see. This is how a drive screw looks like for a computer, and I'll leave these in the video descriptions, but I don't think you will have to buy it, because when you buy a case, your computer case will come with these screws, so you probably will not need to buy that. Okay, so the next thing is mounting the graphics card. RAM and CPU. The graphics card is pretty easy to install. All you have to do is, for all motherboards, it will have this PCI X16, PCI Express X16 slot will have this tab on it. So you just push down on the tab and it'll move this way. Down and it'll move this way to the right. So this means that it's open and you can push your motherboard into the slot. So if it's closed, then you can't. You're not going to be able to do that. So when you take the graphics card out, you'll have to open the tab as well in order to release the graphics card, because this tab locks this into place, this part right here. So if you don't open it, you're going to damage the graphics card. So that's what you have to know. So when you put it in, this has to be open. When you take it out, this has to be open as well. And when you push it in, it'll just lock in automatically. So in addition to that, for this graphic card, this is a GTX RTX 2070. It will use up 2 slots, so you'll have to remove 2 screws here and take out the slot covers, so you can put your graphics card in it. And after you do that, you just push it in. You make sure this is open. You push it in there, and it should just lock into place. And then you take the 2 screws, Phillips screws, and then you just screw them into each one, and your graphics card is secure and it's installed on your motherboard. The next thing is a RAM. This is not that hard to install or take out. So this is a DDR4 288 pin RAM module, and as you can see, one side is shorter than the other. So this side is this collection of pins is less than this, right? So on the motherboard, this side has less, right, and this side has more. So this is how we would connect it. It goes here, goes there, but make sure the tabs are open, just like the graphics PCIe X16 graphics card. So when it's open, you can install your RAM in there, but make sure you align it correctly. This is open like that. You just push down, and then it should move out this way for each one, and then you just align it here with the holes, with the slots, and then you just push down put some pressure here and here at the same time. Push down with both thumbs, and then it should just snap right in, and then this thing should just close. These tabs should just close like that. That's all you have to do for that. The next thing is a CPU. This is a little tricky to put in, so let's see. So for the CPU, you have a locking mechanism right here with the slot. It has this locking mechanism. You would push down on it. So when you push down on this, and then move it over here, just like you move it, you push down and move it over here, it should release it, and then you just push up on that, it comes out like that, and then you should be able to open the CPU slot cover like here. It should just come out, and then if there's a CPU in there, then you just pull it out, and that's it. So that's the CPU cover. After you release the release lever, you should be able to release the processor cover, and then now you can put your CPU in there. So you would take your CPU, align it to your CPU slot. So it goes in just one way. So as you can see, there's like 2 cutouts right here, There's two tabs on the CPU socket, right? One tab, two tab, and it goes in just one way. And there's this triangle right here. So some CPU sockets will have a triangle thing right here, so you can align it. But it goes in one way. You don't have to insert any force to get this in. So you get it in. Just put it in lightly, and then that's it. It should just go in. No force is required. And you just take your thermal paste, put a little bit on the center, like in this picture right here, and don't put too much. Just make sure it's a small little dot like that. You don't have to spread it out or anything, so when your heatsink goes in there, it should just spread out automatically. So you get your CPU in. Okay, let's say it's in. You aligned it, and now you have to close this processor cover. Push down on that, close it, and then you just reuse the lever again. This release lever, you push it back in, right? And then you just snap it, get it to lock here, and that's it. But you have to push down when you do that, right? You push down here and then lock it in, and that's it. It will take a little bit of force to do, but it won't require a tremendous amount of force. It's just a little bit of force. It's like kind of like springy, so you just get it in, lock it back in, that's it. And the CPU backplate. If you want to install the CPU, you need to, after you put the CPU in your motherboard and have it secured with the release lever and put the thermal paste on and everything, you need to put the CPU backplate on there. And this will enable you to screw a heatsink fan on your motherboard. So this is a sample CPU backplate. There's a top plate. This is the top part of it. This is the bottom part of it. So this is where it goes in from the back of your motherboard, right? Yeah, this is the top part. This is the bottom part. So it goes in just one way. And the screw should kind of like protrude. I'm sorry, this is the bottom, this is the top. I have it inverted. So this should go in from the bottom, this part right here. And this should, these screws, these mounting holes should pop out from your motherboard right here. They will pop out after you get them on. And you just put your CPU fan in like here, and then it should pop out. These mounting holes should pop out, and you just screw it into your motherboard like here. Just screw it in, screw all 4 screws in, and that's it. You have it in. And one more thing. Okay, so as for the CPU fan connector, your motherboard should have a CPU fan connector, and it could be anywhere. So on this motherboard, the CPU fan connector is located right here. So it just goes in one way. So it's a 4-pin CPU connector. So you just push it in, and that should be it for the CPU fan connector. And next thing is the M.2 and NVMe SSD. So you just have to first locate it on your motherboard. So on this motherboard, it's right here. So you have to look at the motherboard manual to find it, or you can visually inspect your motherboard and find it. So this is a Samsung 960 Pro NVMe SSD. So to put it in, make sure you take the screw out first. There's going to be a screw out here. You could use your 2mm Phillips head screwdriver to remove it, and then you just put your NVMe or M.2 SSD at a slight angle like that and push it in, and then after you get it in, you just push down on it, and then it should be flat on the board like that. And you just take out your M.2 screwdriver, get your small Phillips head screw, and then put it back into, mount it back into the case, the hole, I'm sorry, and then screw it in with your M.2 2mm Phillips screw, and make sure it's not too tight, just make sure it's just firmly in there, and that's it. That's pretty much it. So thanks for watching by Ace 1000KS 1975. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, and where you could buy all this stuff, I'll leave it in the video description.